everyone, and welcome back to another video. I am so excited to finally be posting this video. This was such a fun project, but it took forever, and so did all of the editing and the motivation to do the editing. But as you can probably tell from the title, this is my Regency Ballgown video. I have been so excited about this project. It was honestly a lot of fun to work on it and to come up with the ideas for it. But before I show you how I made it, I wanted to talk about where my inspiration came from and a little bit of the history behind, I guess, this dress. So I came up with the idea to make this dress basically because a family friend gave me some very, very pretty gold ribbon and also a very intricately embroidered and beaded piece of ribbon that was just enough length to go around the empire waistline, I guess, of a Regency gown. So I was inspired to make a red dress with gold trim and the beautiful embroidered ribbon as the waistband. I was debating whether or not to make it white and gold or red and gold, but I usually tend to do things more on the, safe side and go with neutral colors and stuff. So I thought that red would look really pretty with the gold, and I'm honestly so glad I did in retrospect because this is a stunning dress. Although I had the idea of the colors, I wasn't sure exactly how the gown was going to look and what I wanted to do. Obviously there's a ton of different styles to go off of during the Regency era, but I really decided that I liked one style that I found on Pinterest when I was just browsing, and this particular dress is from the Metropolitan Museum, and I thought it was very unique because it has a V front and a V back, and I also decided on this dress because it looks almost modern enough to be able to pass off if I was going to a fancy event or a party, so that way I can maybe use it in the future for practical use and not just a costume. I found this dress super, just unlike a lot of other Regency dresses and unlike a lot of other ones that people usually tend to sew. And I believe this dress was dated between 1790 and 1800. So it was definitely a very early Regency era, which I also tend to like the dresses from the early Regency era. I don't know how I feel about the early 1830s type dresses. Anyway, that's a whole different subject. But as far as the colors that I wanted to use for this dress, I first wanted to make sure that they were historically accurate, and I found lots of examples of red and gold being used together during the early Regency era. I've found drawings and actual examples that have survived till today. So with the inspiration out of the way, I wanted to talk about my techniques that I used for this project. So I do like things to look historically accurate, but there's a point where for me it just becomes insanity to do it all by hand. And during the Regency era, most clothes, pretty much everything was sewn completely by hand. The sewing machine doesn't come into widespread use for another 50 years at least. So if I were to do this project 100% historically accurately, it probably would have taken me double the time. So I kind of cheat. I do all of the construction seams with a very small sewing machine stitch. I also attached all of the edging, the ribbon edging, with a sewing machine, but I did all of the finishing work by hand and all of the gathering by hand, so it still has a antique-y quality. With that all out of the way, I will let you get on to watching me figure out how to construct this gown, from looking at a picture, creating the pattern, to having a beautiful finished project. So I hope you enjoy watching, and I hope you find this helpful. Okay, so first up I just want to show my pattern. like always, you can screenshot this if you want to make this yourself. This is the pattern without any adjustments, so I will adjust it later and replace this if I see that it needs it. Here are the materials I'm going to use. So I have this gold ribbon that somebody gave me, and then I just got thread to match to sew it on, and then I got this just red cotton. I pre-shrunk this already, and then I have this red polyester thread that matches this. I've got my little red carpet here, and I need basically a bunch of square panels, so I've just marked out a line that I'm going to cut on and then rip for the length, and then I have lines along this for 3 21-inch panels and 1 31-inch panel. So we'll get to ripping. I've got the 3 21-inch skirt pieces, the 1 31-inch, the waistband, and the 2 bodice pieces. I didn't cut out the sleeves because I think I'm going to figure that out later, because this is already enough for me. I get really stressed out cutting things. So my first thing is going to be to sew all of the skirt panels together and add the ribbon around the hem. So let's go do that.
So,
who would you want to spy on?
I don't know, multiple people. I'd spy on you, I'd spy on Mom.
Why would you spy on me?
I'd spy on
What do I do that you don't already know about?
I don't know, I just want to see, go through your day without me there, what you do without me there. And then I would spy on
I do
Mom.
the same things, but I'm a little bit less annoyed.
And then also I would spy on Dad. I would see what he does.
I would not want to see what Dad does in a day, bro.
I want to see what all these people would do. I would want to see celebrities.
I feel like you'd end up getting scarred if you could do that, you know?
I would
You'd be
wanna
like, wow, I
see
really wish I could unsee that.
all my old friends. I would want to see old teachers. I'd want to see.
It would be interesting to spy on your teachers.
It would, right?
Like, to see what they do.
What if one of them is like a mass murderer?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I know. Like, do you remember Dexter when I would watch that show?
Yeah.
Like, he just had a normal life,
Yeah, exactly.
you know? That would be kind of cool.
I'm trying.
All of the skirt panels I just sewed quickly by sewing machine with a 1/2-inch seam allowance. With all of the hand finishing that was going to have to be done on this project, I was certainly not going to sit there and running stitch this whole thing together, so there you go. But I did do most of the finishings on this project by hand, so I fell down most all of the inside seams. First I just cut off the little fuzzy part because I do tear the fabric, and then I cut down the side that's going to be encased to half of the width of the side that's going to be folded over, just to make everything easier and flatter. And then I iron everything so that it stays down and I don't have to hold it with my finger, because, you know, obviously my fingers are already very tired from all this hand sewing. But anyway, after I iron it, I fold it over again so that it fully encases the raw seam allowance. Then I pin it into place to hold it down while I'm sewing, and then I just embark on the long, long journey of felling down all of the long skirt panels. Even though this takes a long time, I'm really happy with the result because it looks really nice and neat, and it's also very accurate for the time period. So I think it really pays off in the end with the look of the overall finished product. The next step was to add the ribbon trim to the bottom of the skirt. This was quite frustrating just because it took so long. So the first thing I did was iron the ribbon in half, and then I pinned it to the bottom of all of the skirt panels, or it was all sewn together, but I pinned it to the bottom of the skirt panels in this weird pinning pattern because this is the only way I could get it to stay all the way, get the skirt to stay all the way encased in the ribbon. So this really sucked to pin this huge length of skirt with all of those pins, and it was a horrible, horrible experience to try to get that whole ribbon on and make sure it was even along the edge. And I cut the skirt on the selvage, so if it wasn't even, you could see the selvage coming out. So it was just awful. However, when it was done, it looked really, really nice, and I thought that these two colors together looked so beautiful. So the last thing that I had to do was sew the back edge of the skirt up. I just sewed this with the sewing machine, and then I also felled this seam down like the other ones. So after I was done with that, the whole skirt was done, which is the main part of the dress, and I hope you enjoy me trying to get a super cool shot of me throwing my skirt down. Yeah, it didn't work out great. So the next thing that I had to do was start on the bodice pieces, but I decided to sew the ribbons on before I did anything else for this. And getting these ribbons on seemed like nothing compared to the huge amount that I had to do before. So the next thing I did was prepare the waistband, because that's kind of what holds the bodice together in this particular design. To do this, I just ironed the 2-inch piece I cut in half, and then I folded each edge over to the halfway point so that you get a nice double fold piece of fabric.
On the big special. I want to get a nose job.
Why do you want to get a nose job? You have a perfect nose. You have a God-blessed nose. No, it's not.
After preparing the waistband, I just decided to go ahead and attach the ribbon to the sleeve pieces.
So here I have half of the bodice done and half of it not done. I'm going to try to explain how I did this. So this right here is the sleeve piece, and this is the bodice piece. And these are right sides together, and then I sewed this way, and then I flipped it over and sewed down this part and that part. So I'm going to show this, and then I'm going to show each step as I go along, so that if you're trying to make this, you can too.
So as I said, I just sewed the bodice and the sleeve piece together on the sewing machine, I guess vertically.
Okay, so same setup, but now this is sewn, and this is in the same orientation. So all that happens is after this seam is sewn right here, you just flip this over, you see, and then fold this in half. It's great to do this with one hand. You fold this in half like that, and then it becomes that. Then you just sew this seam and this seam, obviously on the inside, and then it becomes that.
So before I sewed up the rest of the sleeve and the bodice, I decided to iron everything, because it's easier to iron everything when it's still flat and you don't have to deal with all the weird shapes that happen.
Now that I've gotten that seam ironed down, I just folded it over like this, and then I line up these edges and this edge, and then I'm going to sew here, and then after I'm done with that, this is going to fold over and I'm going to sew up the rest of this right here. So here's me doing exactly what I said I was going to do. And somehow I had a lot more trouble with this on the second go around than the first. And this is my first time making this dress, so I don't know, you tell me. So after the whole bodice and sleeve thing was constructed, I cut down all of the seam allowances and felled the seams open, not to one side like I did on the skirt. I just found it easier based on the way that the bodice was sewn together. This actually was really frustrating for some reason. I felt it was more frustrating than the skirt just because it was really weird to go around all of these different seams and shapes and things. But you know, I got it done and I think it looks really good. It's finished nicer than modern store-bought clothes. Now, something I didn't think about the fact that it might be pretty hard and time consuming on this project was the gathering. So there is a lot of gathering on this. The whole skirt's gathered and the whole bodice is gathered. So this pattern, I came up with the gathering after based on looking at the extant garment that I was copying. So I basically gathered in the front, basically closest to the cleavage, extra. So I gathered this 2-inch section down to 1 inch with just a running stitch, and I did 2 parallel running stitches, and then when I gathered them down to the right amount, I just tied a knot to secure them. And then the rest of the bodice and the skirt are both gathered down using the same method. I know I showed the gathering, but I wanted to explain the pattern, I guess, that I used to gather. So in this front part, I gathered 2 inches down to 1 inch, and then the rest of this front side was all gathered down. So in total, this whole side measures to 7.5 inches. And then on the back side, I just did the whole side without the 1 inch part right here. So this also measures to 7.5 inches. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I have both done now, and I'm going to be attaching them to the waistband next. After it was time to gather the skirt, and I used the same method to gather the skirt down, but for the pattern, long story short, I just gathered the back more than the front to give it the 1790s look that I was going for. It's already 90% done, okay? I just have to attach it to the waistband. It has the edging on it and everything. It's all fell down ready, and I'm really a little bit scared. So this is the back panel, and I'm going to cut a slit right in the middle of it. And to do this, I'm going to do the method of drawing a thread, which you'll see. I'll film how to do that. But yeah, I'm pretty scared right now, so fingers crossed I measured right. So to make sure that this line was super straight, I used the method, like I said, of drawing a thread to cut along. This fabric sucked to use this method. It was so tightly woven, which is good because it means it'll last a long time and it's good quality, but the thread would not come out of this fabric. Anyway, I had to find this thread 1,000 times, and I'm pretty sure I was using like 3 different threads next to each other, but it all worked out, and the line is very straight, and I can attest that everything worked out fine, being future me. Oh my god.
That's the most racist and
that is awful, Dad. Oh my god.
Oh.
After I cut the slit in the back of the skirt, how the length I needed it to get it on, I just pinned it and felled it down with actually really small felling stitches because I think that this will probably get a lot of wear and tear. Not that I'll be wearing this often, but I want it to still be good quality. Here's me doing a very rough test fitting of the bodice before I attach it to the skirt, just because I didn't want to have to take it off and then redo it. But after that, I just pinned the skirt to the waistband and sewed it on, and I make this sound a lot simpler than it was because it was really hard to sew all of this gathering on. There was so much gathering in this skirt. So I have the skirt finally attached and gathered. This is the front side, this is the inside of it. As you can see, this is very messy. And then on the back, it's extra gathered right here. This is actually quite an experience to put all this in. It was a lot harder than I expected, not in like thinking about it, but just actually executing it. It was frustrating because the fabric just wouldn't work out. So anyway, it's done now, and what I'm going to do is add an inner waistband. As you can see, this is the outer one right here. So I'm going to add an inner waistband. First I'm going to cut these the seam allowance down and pink it all around so that it won't fray, and then I'm going to just probably fell an inner waistband to just cover all the raw seams on the inside. Here is my inner waistband that I just finished ironing, and basically this is just going to cover up the raw seams in here like this so that everything will lay flat and nice and beautiful. And also I cut this on the selvage so that I wouldn't have to iron down both sides, just one side, so that's a little fun tip, I guess. So I don't think I really need to explain this. I pinned it down and felled it down on both sides like I've been doing this whole project. But I do recommend adding an inner waistband if you're making anything like this. I actually think it makes a huge difference in sort of the flatness, I guess, of the waist area, even though this isn't the waist, but you get my point. I think it makes it look really clean and nice, and also adding an inner waistband gave me extra support when attaching my hooks and eyes, which we'll get to in a minute. So as you can see, I left a lot of extra length on to both sides of my waistband, and I did this because I wanted the closure to overlap in the back, so I didn't just want the hooks and eyes to be right on one point, because a lot of times with that I find that there's gaping in the back. So to do this, I felled down the very ends of the waistband, and then I folded them back over and felled them again, leaving the 3-inch amount that I wanted them to overlap in the back. It actually worked out really well as far as length went, so then I just attached the hooks and eyes, and I found that this gave the closure lots of extra strength, and I have no fear that it'll ever unhook. So we're almost done. This is the second to last step, and what I have done is just mark out where I'm going to gather the sleeves and the bodice on the front and the back. And so I'm just going to run 2 gathering threads and then tie it, scrunch it up and tie it off underneath on the underside, and that way it won't be seen, but those are just gonna sit in here happily. And I'm gonna gather the front 9 inches from the waistband, same on the back, and then the sleeves are it's just a continuing line on the sleeves, and then also on the bottom of the sleeves I'm going to gather that up right there. So I'm gonna get to doing that. I've got all my gathering threads in now on all of the lines that I drew out. So on this side, on the front, and on the undersleeve, and on the back. And now I'm just going to basically squish these down. I'm going to revisit the picture to make sure that I'm doing it accurately, but I think I'm going to do the front squished down to 2 inches, and then the sleeves about 3 inches, and then the back part 1 inch. So that's the plan. As I did on the rest of the project, I hand gathered the straps, and I was planning to do the sleeves, but after trying it on, I just decided to leave them because I really loved the way it looked. And with that, this month-long project finally came to a close.
Alright guys, so that wraps up this video. I hope you really enjoyed watching this. This is super fun for me to do, and I was so stoked about this project because most of the other things I've made have just been like undergarments and like I guess more simpler looking things. This is just, I found this stunning, and at least for me this is like super amazing, and I was really happy with how this turned out. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you like my content and want to see more from me, and I will see you in the next video.
Well, hi guys, how is everyone? I'm good. I'm super excited right now, so I just wanted to film a little bit. I'm all decked out as if I was going to a ball somewhere between 1790 and 1800. Details of my outfit. Hairstyle, I will put the portrait that I copied for this hairstyle somewhere in here. What else? I got these gloves. These are vintage gloves. I'm not sure when they were made. I would guess sometime between 1900 and 1950s. What else? This is a very pretty ribbon that someone gave me. Not necessarily historically accurate because if you look really closely it has sequins, but we're going to ignore that because I really like it and it complements this dress. I don't have my stays done, so I've fashioned a push-up strapless bra and a wood busk to give me the right bust shape. I've got my little bag right here. Got the matching ribbon to the dress, you know, we like that. Got everything including the stockings, and these are flats that I found at Goodwill that look semi-similar to something I found on a museum website. And I think that's everything I wanted to show. I'm just super stoked right now because I literally look like a movie. Okay, anyway, I'll let you get back to watching this.